Today, March 7th. I'm Sheila Vaccaro with Lisa Dorsey and Bernie Flynn. Next on the agenda, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents. Anyone? Okay. 3 is discussion items, garage monthly report.
Good evening, Forrest Friedman with InPark/Reef. Another relatively quiet month in terms of no issues, no real concerns or anything. From a monetary standpoint, one of the things we're tracking our monthly against budget. We're doing relatively well against the prior year, but our monthly is definitely trailing. We have about 18 cars on the wait list at Bicentennial, which we're looking to move over to Chestnut Street. Should have that taken care of, which will help us bump that up. Some of it, students graduate and then dip down, some remote working. So there's a few different things that are occurring. It's something that we're, have a pulse on, and we're, figuring out what we can do to help spur that a little bit. Transient at Bicentennial is also lagging a little bit more than, we're doing better than last year, but it's still lagging behind budget. So again, it's something we're looking at. We're still doing better than 2019, all those good things. But there's definitely things that we need to look at and understand, and at least come back with some different recommendations on how we can boost that up a little bit. In terms of, again, we have 18 cars on the waiting list. Staff's running well. When we start going into the graphs, we're still trending higher than we were, in February of last year. Not a big surprise. We did have that lull last year with COVID, but it started coming back, as you see, in February and March. And we anticipate us, not that we've had a bad winter by any stretch, but, as the weather gets better, people will be out and about, and you'll get that nightlife and different things like that. So again, average revenue per day, same kind of trend as the tickets. And then if we, tickets issued, they're increasing. And our transient revenue growth, which I really need to modify this so you can kind of see year over year at this point to make it a little bit easier, which I'll take care of for next month. But again, we are better than last February. We're still doing better than 2019. But again, we've hit this little bit of a lull, which again we've got our eye on. We're working to understand and remedy that. Outside of that, as I say, it's been, knock on wood, relatively quiet, and things are working well. And any questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Have a good night.
And the director's report.
Okay. I'll make this quick since you saw we've been doing a lot of stuff with IT, we got the postings online, and meter bag rentals can now be paid for online, which is a nice little upgrade. We are working through the hire of 2 new parking enforcement officers, one for day shift, one for night shift. So we should be fully staffed soon. I'm very excited because I just did the math, and we've installed the parking enforcement officers have installed 156 of the 4G meters. So that means we only have 72 left. So that's very exciting because I thought it was gonna take us the rest of my life. So they did a really good job, and I think I'm really excited for all that they've done. I will have a draft of the updated ordinance removing the private property enforcement for the next agenda, and a draft for overnight parking for commercial vehicles at borough lots for the next meeting. And I am working on an MOU for the Justice Center. So I did not forget those things. We did receive the loading zone survey responses, but with John out with Mr. Flynn's namesake, I will review with him and then come back with recommendations for you all. I don't think they're as bad as I thought they were going to be, though. So, and that's all I have for the director's report.
Then let's move on to the electric car charging is in residential areas. And I have people watching at home who are very interested.
Okay. This came up because a resident actually installed a car charging station on a local street because they didn't have off-street parking. And so I know I don't know if we're technically a green municipality or what, silver, I don't know what this, I don't know, but I know we want to be sustainable. So I just wanted to plant the seed in parking committee that at some point we're going to need to consider a plan for residents that do not have off-street parking and how we're going to allow them to charge electric vehicles. But
You glossed over it.
yes,
The resident. is
Oh.
told-
he had an electrical permit. He ran it under the sidewalk. So,
That's illegal.
yeah, so
So
we've dealt with the perpetrator of this issue, but
paying attention. You thought I was sleeping over here.
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but it did bring up a lot of,
Ran over me.
I didn't, but it does bring up the seed was planted that, at some point, what are we going to do about residents that don't have off-street parking, and how will we say, no, you can't get a Tesla because you don't have a place to charge it?
They're more than welcome. Ms. Vaccaro walks from her house way on the other side of town. Park here. The giant parking lot has them.
Yeah.
Actually, in Harrisburg, they have charging stations on the main road, business districts,
Mhm.
where you could charge up to a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
But in the residential areas, I'm a little scary about doing that kind of stuff.
I'm not scared. I just, I think that,
In the business district, it works well. I think.
sure.
Yeah, but not residential.
And I'm not suggesting we take over it.
I have been approached by residents who live in areas that do not have off-street parking about how are we going to handle this? Because we have to handle this. This is not something we can ignore or tell them to go to Giant to do. We have to be, we're parking. Like we have to do something to accommodate. There's a massive shift in the market, and we can't say because you live in our town, you can't evolve with time. We gotta try to do something.
I am, and I'm aligned with Ms. Vaccaro. I think it's that we are going to have to address eventually. I think we have an initiative for the borough to be green, right? For all kinds of reasons by 2030.
You're right on the
Um,
side on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So if that is our goal, we're going to need to make it available to residents as well. And selfishly, I would be one of those people because I don't have off-street parking. So, and that has been a dilemma, like where would I charge my car? There's maybe 10 charging stations in the whole borough. Yeah.
But here's the issue, and I've seen it out front here. Whoever owns that Tesla that parks out there, comes at say 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, and doesn't come back to the next morning. So if we're going to put charging stations in the blocks, you can't, we don't have the ability to police them overnight to make sure they move them so the next person can use them.
Yeah. This is not unique to the borough, right? This is a real world problem that we're going to have to figure out how to address. And we're going to have to probably collaborate with some other municipalities and see how they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's not unique to the borough.
I think they should all be across Price Street. I agree.
What's your address? Where do you live?
13
Street?
Price Street.
I will say Sean and I talked, and Will had the same mentality that this isn't infrastructure that the borough is going to want to own. If there's a way to do it, third party, and I don't mean to speak for you, obviously, right there, but if there's a way to partner with a third party contractor that would maintain the infrastructure and figure it out that way, that would be ideal. But yeah, I think we can't be the only municipality or the first to deal with this, but it is going to continue to come up.
We haven't figured out all the technical solutions, which is why we're having this conversation here to see if enough members of the committee and council are in favor of us looking into this. I don't know what the technical solution is because you're running a pretty powerful circuit under the sidewalk out to probably something that looks like a stand with a cord. And it's also curious how that gets secured. If I'm running a 50 amp circuit out to the curb to charge my car, I don't want my neighbors charging on it. And then,
The neighbor across from me on Potter Alley, he has a Prius. And I don't know whether they ran a special circuit to the side of his house. But he just has a cord that's plugged into the house. And when he pulls up, he just plugs it in every night or whatever it is. And then when he's done, he throws it up over the railing. And, it goes that way.
So if it's a regular plug, it doesn't charge the car very quickly. If you run a special high voltage line, there are like 3 tiers
Yeah.
for the different ways to charge, and you can't get a full charge in a reasonable amount of time at all.
He does it
with-
overnight.
Yeah, and that doesn't even, I don't even think that really fully charges it. And maybe I don't know all the
I
specifics
was
of all
going
the
to
cars.
test it, take it in front of my tongue. like
You
we
just
do.
go, uh,
See how it works. We did crazy things in the 60s. The biggest thing is the fight.
well, so
That's
This-
my, I
I'm
don't
in
care if we
agreement
put
with
charging
you.
stations everywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be the fight with the
the
residents.
problem
Yeah.
is if we put, and the people watching aren't going to love that I'm saying this, but if I take a charging station and it's ours, it's the borough's charging station, and put it on a residential block, and only one person has a car that can be charged there, then we've created a private spot for them, and that's something I won't do. I won't
Right.
condone that. We need to do this in a way that is organized, and there's some way of getting money for if we are providing the electricity. It's a whole system, and so I'm putting it on you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but I agree because otherwise we're in almost like the handicap parking situation where then everybody's saying it's my spot. And then, I don't want to have to do a electric car charging request agenda every month either. We need a holistic approach to it.
Yeah,
so.
prior to COVID, the Rotary Club came to me and asked whether they could sponsor putting charging stations along Market and Gay Street.
Okay,
And of course, COVID hit, and then who knows whatever happened to it. I never followed up with it,
okay,
but they were more attuned to doing something in the business district other
Okay.
than residential district. So,
sure.
yeah.
Okay,
It seems to me that if they can figure out a way to charge money for air for tires, we should be, like some gas stations do, that there should probably be a way that we can have charging stations in 2 or 3 areas of the town, like a group, like clustered, like clustered parking lots, clustered charging stations, where there's 3 or 4 in each quadrant or 2 or 3 quadrants of the town and charge. It could be income producing for the town,
yeah.
just like parking lots are.
Is it,
And talking
Point there,
about
I agree.
parking lots, are you saying, I heard you say something about parking lots and overnight parking. Are you saying then that, because I couldn't hear you, were you saying the residents will not be allowed to park there overnight? Those residents who are around the parking lots?
no, we were talking about commercial vehicles, large trucks. Right.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor. Anytime we can make money out
Yeah.
of money. But the fact is, if we put them in just say Greenfield.
Mhm.
All right, I just picked that
Mhm.
because we're just renovating it. If we put 3 charging stations there or 2 charging stations there, right? The people would have to walk from their houses to go there.
Mhm.
I think that what Ms. Vaccaro's talking about is that people want to have convenience
Mhm.
in their block
Mhm.
to do it. And, there's enough high tension wires running through the borough.
Right.
There shouldn't be a problem getting electricity. It's just policing it.
Mhm.
And then the vandalism of homecoming. They're going down the street and they decide that, oh, it's going to be cool to have that cord in my bedroom.
Never happened. What?
Never. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Um,
We don't want that. Yeah, let's play with that. Yes, exactly. I want to. Let's do that.
Can I suggest maybe we come up with a list of like pros and cons and maybe have another discussion next month on this topic?
Yes, please.
To the
No, they have to tap in with a credit card and they pay for the charge. The ones out here? Yeah. As is the case with the chargers in the parking garages.
At the Giant parking lot, there's two of them over there. They're free. That's a service for, I guess, the businesses are supplying the charging stations over there. But there's advertising on it as well. So they're getting paid advertising, for the use. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to be something new.
Yeah, I think it will be very difficult to structure and organize. So thank you for taking that up.
We'll get the list. We'll work on the pros and cons.
Okay, moving on to number 4, action items. Approve the parking committee minutes of February 2023. Any other business?
I had one item. I had briefly spoken to the two of you a while back, and I'm sorry I haven't caught up with you, but this came up again, and this was the concept of liftings in permit areas. And I just wanted to ask about this because I'm curious. I don't know if anyone has the history of, Mr. Flynn mentioned that we have on our website a permit area lifting request, and we get them often. And the understanding was that it would be for, somebody in your family passes away and you're having a funeral and you have 50 people coming over and you want the area lifted for a specific amount of time. But we get consistent ones monthly for different areas for parties or Bible studies. And, I understand the need. I think it's hard when we're doing, there's so many different areas of this borough that are so different that it's really hard to make a rule that fits for everyone. But this, to me, I understand if it's a once a year thing, but to do it consistently could set a bad precedent if we don't have some sort of qualifications for this or some sort of vetting process, because I'm just thinking, if college kids are like, well, we want permits lifted down by our frat house because we want to have a party. How do we determine what's appropriate and what's not? And I didn't know the thoughts on this. And, we do have garages, people do have guest passes, and I'm all for being accommodating. But I also, when we do these, it displaces the people that do have permits in the area. And then we get those complaints from those residents. So I just wanted to hear what the parking committee thought about it.
So are you saying that on occasion that is being abused?
I wouldn't say abused, but we get people that do it at least once a month habitually. And that sets kind of a precedent for other people. And I just wanted to figure out a way to kind of draw the line for our department to say, if you want to do it monthly, you need to get permission from the parking committee or something because again, I don't want to set a precedent where Pi Alpha Phi or whatever decides they want to have a raisure every month, and that's now we're approving it, because how do we say no? Because we approve the Bible study every month, even though they're two very different things. And we don't really have it spelled out anywhere.
I don't know. It's the first time I'm hearing it. So just thinking out loud, maybe there's, as a resident, you can request it once a year,
Mm-hmm.
once every 6 months.
What I did a deep dive trying to find out why we started it. I even went as far as the comprehensive parking plan to see if we put it in there when we did that thing over 4 or 5 years ago. I can't find anything other than when Clark Elms was here and we had an issue off of Marshall Street or Marshall Road over that way. And it was a resident wanted to have it all the time. And nothing was ever concreted in with a definition of lifting. But it was the way it was construed, it was, as Ramsey said, if you had a funeral or you live in an area where parking is pretty difficult or whatever, and you need somebody to come over for a christening or, an event, you would lift the restriction. But that would be an occasional, like once a year or whatever. A monthly would be unbelievably how to police that.
Would we police it? Can you police it by, as a resident, you keep a record?
I mean, we could just do a spreadsheet and check it against that. We don't get them that often, but I think it would be a fair start. And then if people, if there's something else coming up and that, we just had a funeral and now they're going to have a quinceañera, like, I get that. But I think monthly becomes a little bit not redundant, but it's a lot for these small areas.
It's an imposition on other residents on the same block, right?
Right. Sorry. They ask for us to lift the restrictions on the block. Sometimes they'll say, can you lift it for these 2 blocks? And we usually say, no, we'll only do it for a block. But we had one the other day, without giving away too much, and the person actually had off-street parking and they just didn't like using it. And to me, that seems unfair because there's so many places that don't have off-street parking. And, as I lived in the borough, I used to plan my kids' birthday parties on Sundays so that I didn't have to worry about these parking pass situations. And, we carpooled and used garages. So I understand that it can be a pain, but I also know that my street was tiny, and when I had 10 cars there, my neighbors couldn't load their groceries. So, I just want to be mindful of that. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. No, no, we've just been lifting it, and then they don't police that area for permits.
So that's a good point. Is there an opportunity to charge a fee for that?
We keep trying to brainstorm that in the office, and then it comes down to, then if you do a temporary permit, then how do we police that? Because if you make it easy to go online, how, do we then open the floodgates to 1 million temporary permits? I think there is a way eventually to do it, but I think right now it would just be helpful to say maybe once every 6 months for a household to do something like this, for an extenuating circumstance, and that would give us a starting point. I do think there's better ways to manage permitting for the borough, but I stay awake at night thinking about it, but I haven't solved it.
You don't do that?
No. No. No, to the mayor's point about the Bible studies, this happened, what we're talking about was probably a 32 text emails over the weekend, when the resident was requesting a monthly party at their house. And we said, every month you want to have it? And she says, yeah. We said, well, we can't just keep lifting restrictions in the middle of the week or whatever to give you the whole block, that kind of thing. So,
A fee would not be a deterrent for
No, not for this-
that
not for this
resident.
group.
So that's where you have to really manage and control
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I have taken calls from residents who are very upset that this is not available to them. And I explained that this is a larger issue that is relating to more than their particular situation. And it is frustrating to them. And I completely understand that they have used this for years and now it's not available. And why is that? And I explained it that, this is a much larger situation. And as our borough has been growing significantly, we can't have a policy in place that if I lifted a permit in a very tight, if I lifted permitting on North Darlington Street where there are row houses and threw a party, what are my neighbors supposed to do?
Right.
That's not really acceptable to those residents. I know in some areas of the borough, it's much wider streets and nobody parks. And I get why it seems like it makes sense, but borough-wide, it doesn't make sense. And I think we've gone over a number of things that apply to this where it doesn't make sense. And it's not really a rule. It's
Right.
it's sort of an odd sentence that sort of meant something. So I think what needs to be done is this needs to be really thought out and really, really clearly done in a way that is going to accommodate everybody in the borough, which doesn't sound like that much, but it's humongous and it's all over the place with what is available and accessible. And if we have permit parking, it's there for a reason.
Right.
And the reasons vary across our borough. But if we're going to have something, a blanket rule for our borough, it has to work for the whole thing. And right now, that rule does not.
Right.
So
I could tell you talked to the same people we did. So there were probably 50 emails instead of 30.
Just invite your neighbors to the thing and then you don't have to lift the restriction because they already have a permit. I've solved it. So I'll come up with some sort of thoughtful structure for the next meeting. I just wanted to hear thoughts. Thank you. And please apologize to whomever might be upset. And I apologize to you guys for your weekend being spent emailing. Okay.
then we're going to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.